Petco Park, a new beginning, let's go. Started back rocking the brown. Ever since we've been knocking them down. Baby said she wanna go to the game. Taught her how to say Padre gang. Started back rocking the brown. Ever since we've been knocking them down. Mitchell and Ness with the old school name. All of the homies holler Padre gang. Yeah, that.
And good day, everybody. It was a good day. Maybe not a good night, at least for me on the East Coast right now, but good day, everyone. This is episode 157 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show, live on YouTube. I appreciate if you're watching live or you're on replay or you're on the podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcast. I am Ben Fadden, your host. Going to take you through the Cleveland series, which ended up being one day today, the doubleheader, the Padres losing the second game of the doubleheader, winning the first game, Manny homering, a bunch of stuff to go over, the bullpen. Should you be worried about the bullpen? A lot of different stuff to go over tonight with you. So, before we get started, this episode is brought to you by GAGLIONE Bros Famous Cheesesteaks and Subs, located in Petco Park, Mission Gorge, Point Loma. You can visit their website, gaglionebros.com, to view their entire menu. Great cheesesteaks and garlic fries, maybe to help you get through this Padres loss that just happened tonight, or help you get you or continue to be happy based on the Padres win in the daytime, if that's what you want to take away from today. But they split the doubleheader. They are now 16-9, and I think right now they're in a pretty good spot. If you're just asking me, hey, before the season, 16-9, are you happy with this? I would say yes. But there's now two games that have happened on this very road trip, where you might look back on it and say, hey, we should have won those games. That might cost us in wild card positioning, playoff positioning, making the playoffs, winning the division if we're anywhere close to that, at the end of the season. Today was the third game where that's going to hang over us, right? Where the Padres could have won today. They could have won on opening day. They could have won that Saturday night game in Pittsburgh, right? But they did not. That's the bottom line. So we'll talk about both games, preview the Marlins series a little bit, the homestand, and as always, I'll answer any questions that you guys have in the chat. No one's in here right now. No one's watching right now, but I'm going to give my thoughts regardless. All right, so Tuesday's game obviously was postponed yesterday. San Diego did option Ray Kerr down to make room for Mike Clevinger because Clev was scheduled to start, and they needed to make room for it. They were still planning on playing the game, and obviously they didn't end up doing it, but Ray Kerr was sent down. That wasn't a surprise. He'd only pitched one inning in the big leagues with the Padres, and it happened to be in a blowout against the Dodgers. He didn't do anything wrong to be sent down, but it just ended up being a numbers game. Mike Clevinger is going to have a bigger impact on the team than Ray Kerr is. That's just the bottom line. So Ray Kerr, he did strike out Max Muncy that one inning that he pitched against the Dodgers, that Sunday game at Petco. Again, didn't do anything wrong, but he was sent down. Pedro Avila was activated before the doubleheader today. He was sent down as well, along with Luis Campusano, to trim the roster down from 28 guys to 26. But he came back up for the doubleheader because you can have that 27th guy. That's the rules. You have a doubleheader, you can add a 27th man, and usually it's a pitcher because teams with doubleheaders, if one game goes wrong, your pitching staff might be screwed, and you want to protect the pitching staff for the next day or the next series, like the Padres are going to have to do, or they probably tried to do today because they have 7 straight games now without an off day, right? They had 2 days off. The off day Monday, the off day yesterday, even though it wasn't planned. And so they're going to have to have 7 straight games now without any off days. So it's going to be interesting to see how the bullpen management goes. Before every game, like always, I release those bullpen charts, those daily bullpen usage charts to log all the relievers in the bullpen, their pitches that they throw in the last 5 days in game, just to kind of guess. We can play manager a little bit and guess who we think might get into the game in the bullpen, who's available, who's not. I want to get to Wednesday's games. The 2 games today, Padres won the first game 5-4. Hosmer came through with an RBI single in the first. The big story was Mike Clevinger coming back, and we'll get to him. Just how this game happened, we're going to get to right now. Cronenworth in the top of the third had a grounder to second that should have been an out, but Naylor clanked it off his glove. That ended up really helping the Padres because Manny then came up and hit a home run to left field in the at-bat after that. Made it 3-0 instead of 2-0 had that Naylor error not happened. In the bottom of the third, Steven Kwan, he ended up being the hero the second game. In the first game, he had an RBI single that made it 3-1 Padres. In the fifth, bases loaded, 2 outs. Hosmer grounded to second base to end the inning. I put that in my notes because I thought that was probably going to come up huge, and it kind of did. They ended up winning by 1, so they didn't necessarily need the run, but it would have helped to have at least one more run there to have a little bit more insurance. In the fifth, Clev walked 2 guys. Wilson walked 1, and so that loaded the bases, and that set up Josh Naylor having a 2 RBI single to tie the game 3-3. In the sixth, Kim had a double. Beatty had a bloop single to put first and second for Nola, who doubled in Kim. That made it 4-3 Padres, and that ended up being how many runs Cleveland scored. In the seventh, Cronenworth hit a sac fly that made it 5-3. That fifth run ended up being the deciding run. In the seventh, Ahmed Rosario had a grounder to short, sacrifice groundout that scored former Padre prospect Owen Miller. That made it 5-4 Padres. And then Taylor Rogers closes it out with his 10th save on the year. He was great in that inning, did not pitch in the second game, but pitched in that first game. And the Padres ended up winning 5-4. Rogers sealed it down. My takeaways from this game is Mike Clevinger. Right? I talked about it on the pregame show today. If he stays healthy through this game, that's all I cared about. And that's exactly what happened. He ended up staying healthy. And to be honest, he pitched better than I thought he was going to. And Bob Melvin gave him a bigger leash than I thought he was going to give him. I thought it was going to be 80 to 85 pitches in that range, and he ended up going 95. So I'd be lying if that wasn't a little concerning. At least my thoughts in the moment, if I was concerned at all, when I saw those pitch counts going above 90 pitches, I was a little concerned because that wasn't the plan. But Clevinger felt good. Now, you can feel good today. It's going to be more of a question of, do you feel good tomorrow? That's what I'm more concerned about. And hopefully someone in the media ask Bob Melvin tomorrow how Clev is feeling after, the adrenaline isn't there. He has the ice, all that. He wakes up out of his bed. How does he feel? I think I'm going to be concerned, or not concerned. I'm going to be focused on that more than him feeling good and him being able to go 95 pitches today. But he did finish with 4 2/3 innings. He had 4 strikeouts through 3 at 60 pitches. Finished with 95, like I mentioned, 4 2/3 innings, gave up 3 runs, 3 walks, 4 hits, struck out 4. He struck out Franmil, I believe, struck out Steven Kwan, who doesn't strike out, for his first strikeout in 2022. I posted those strikeouts on the Talking Friars Twitter like I always do, the game highlights, not just the highlights, but the lowlights as well. Any play of significance goes up there. Any game that I'm watching that I'm not at the game, I'm clipping those plays out there at Talking Friars. So if you're missing anything, you can't watch the game, just go through my Twitter account and you'll be caught up with everything that happened, videos, everything that happened in the game. But my takeaway here, 5-4 Padres win is, Hosmer stayed hot, Manny with the home run, taking advantage of the Naylor error, right? That was big. Taylor Rogers, I had put out a video or a clip of a video on YouTube a couple days ago saying that Rogers has a ton of pressure on him, and this definitely proved it. A one-run game. Cleveland came back. The Padres had a 3-run lead at one point in this game. They ended up having 2 3-run leads in the second game, but in the first game they had a 3-run lead, and they ended up winning only by 1. So that's the story of what the bullpen's been right now, and it kind of sucks to say that, but that's just the way it is. Taylor Rogers, he's going to be in a lot of save situations when they probably don't have to be save situations, but the guys before him make it a save situation, and he's going to have to come through for the Padres to win games and stay with the Dodgers and the Giants. That's just the way it's going to be. Get into the chat here before we move on to game 2. Ashley, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Francisco, Trevor, how's it going? Hope you guys are having good nights. When we went up 3-0 in the first, I was like, okay, easy win. I should have known. That's the way that the bullpen's been right now, Ashley. Yeah, you're right. Padres have always had that good closer, but before that, that's the question mark. And this road trip has definitely tested that. You had Lamet not pitch well today. You had him not pitch well in Cincinnati, which meant Taylor Rogers had to come in that Cincinnati game and close, which made him unavailable to pitch that Saturday night Pittsburgh game that they end up losing because he pitched 3 days in a row, including that first Pittsburgh game. So it's all a chain link effect, if you get what I'm saying. And that's just when one guy does bad or a couple guys do bad, that forces Rogers in situations that the Padres don't want him to pitch in so that they can save him for later games. And then when he has to pitch in those games that they didn't want him to pitch in, he's not available for those games. And so it's just a chain effect. It sucks, but that's the way it is right now. The bullpen started off good, and now they've hit some bumps. And it's not just one guy. Steven Wilson struggled a little bit now in this road trip. Lamet struggled. Tim Hill did not pitch well today. Robert Suarez left a changeup up today, and we'll get to that when he was ahead 1-2 on Josh Naylor in the second game. So it's not. I wish it was one guy, but that's not the way it is. Former Padres killed us like always. Yep. Hate to say, but Lamet ain't the same no more. Francisco says, well, welcome to the party. He hasn't really been the same this year. He hasn't been the same really since 2020 when he came off San Francisco off the mound there and didn't get the surgery. There's been good moments, but 2020 was the best that we're going to get out of Dinelson Lamet. That's what he was in 2020. Finishing, wasn't he a finalist in the Cy Young? And now look what he is. He doesn't have a role in the bullpen. They're floating him in trade talks, which they should trade him, by the way, because they're definitely getting back Morahone and Baez and Castillo, and Snell's coming back. He has a rehab start tonight right now. Nick Martinez is going to be moved in the bullpen because Clev and Snell are coming back. And even when Snell comes back, maybe they go with a 6-man, maybe they go with a 5, and that means that Gore piggybacks someone. They're going to get guys in the bullpen, so Lamet is going to definitely be out there to trade, So he just doesn't have a role. And Lamet, you're right, San Francisco, Lamet is not the guy that he used to be in 2020. If you're just tuning in, that's the way it's been. That's the way it has been. Trevor says, should have swept the entire road trip, really. Yep, you're right. Should have won Saturday. Should have won the second game today. They should have won 8-0. Instead, they went 6-2. And I said leading into the series, I would have taken 6-2, but it's the way that they were 6-2 that pisses me off. It's like, okay, you got to win. You're 6-2, great road trip, but it's almost like you'd rather have them get blown out those 2 games, because then, okay, at least you could have said, okay, that Pittsburgh Saturday game and that game, the second game today, they weren't winnable games. They were going to lose them anyway. Okay, you can take that. But these 2 games you should have won. So it's not like you're going to look back at the end of the season if they miss a wild card spot, some wild card spot by 2 games, and you say, well, that's the position that they should have been in because they got blown out those 2 games. No. They should have won these 2 games, and we might be looking back later in the year and say, well, we should have been in a better position. But that's what happens when the bullpen sucks and you blow it. That's just what happens. It happened Saturday when they blew 2 leads in the 8th and the 10th, when Taylor Rogers was not available because he had to pitch 3 straight days because Lamet sucked in Cincinnati. There's a carryover there. And then today when they blew 2 leads, 3-run leads, by the way. So the bullpen is the weak spot right now. The rotation's pitching well. Gore pitched good again today. Clev pitched good. He's healthy. Snell's coming back. Manaea, Darvish, they're pitching well. Musgrove is arguably the best starter in the National League right now. But the bullpen isn't great right now. You got to have both working. You can't have one working and one not working. If the starting rotation's working but the bullpen sucks, you're going to blow leads. If the starting rotation sucks and the bullpen's good, well, the game's going to be out of hand by the time it gets to the bullpen. So that's pretty much the situation right now. All right, moving to game 2. Padres lose this one 6-5. It sucked. Again, they were definitely blowing leads, multiple leads. They lose it 6-5 to get to 16-9 on the year. Top of the first, Eric Hosmer. It started off well. They had a 2 RBI double by Haas to the right center field gap. He continued to mash this series today. On the road trip, he's probably top 3 in Player of the Month. Maybe top 2, but they want to ride Nolan Arenado's you-know-what, and that's why he won April Player of the Month. But getting back to the game, Haas made it 3-0, and Kim with those RBI hits in the first. In the bottom of the third, there was bases loaded, and Gore walked Jose Ramirez to make it 3-1. His command was spotty at times. He walked more guys than he struck out today, which isn't ideal, but that's nothing really to worry about. He ended up, he gave up like 1 run today? Yeah. 5 2/3 innings, Gore went, gave up 1 run, 4 hits, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts on 100 pitches on the dot. Hedges scored on a double to make it 3-2. That was when the bullpen came in. In the 8th, Profar had a check swing double down the left field line, made it 4-2 Padres. Abrams had a bases loaded walk, so that was another run that was given to the Padres that made it 5-2. In the 8th, Manny had an error. It was ruled not an error after the fact, but it was an error. I think Manny would tell you that it was an error. On the chopper, went under his glove. Hedges had an RBI single that made it 5-4 Padres. Naylor came through. What a surprise. He came through a little bit in the first game, came through today in the second game. Both of the games were today, but came in through the second game as well. An RBI single off of Robert Suarez made it 5-5. On a 1-2 count, like I mentioned earlier, 1-2 count, you gave him the pitch to hit. I didn't like how Suarez attacked Naylor, that pitch that Naylor hit for that game-tying RBI. Look, it was a 1-2 count. Don't throw the ball in the strike zone. He floated a changeup up there, and Naylor capitalized. He threw, I believe it was 2 fastballs like down the middle of the Naylor, and Naylor didn't capitalize on those pitches. You gave him those pitches to hit. You got ahead in the count. You don't float another pitch over the strike zone. Now, that's just me. Some people don't like wasting pitches, but when you're Robert Suarez and, you just threw a fastball down the middle that you were lucky that Naylor didn't swing at, don't throw that again. I know he didn't throw a fastball, but he threw a changeup that went over the plate, and Naylor smashed it into center field for an RBI single to tie the game. I didn't like that there from Suarez. Tim Hill was not good at all either. In the 8th, he had a walk, fielder's choice, single, line out to the left, E5 by Manny. That was an error, but it was ruled not an error. And then the single before Suarez came in and gave up a run to tie the game. Just Hill and Suarez weren't good. Lamet was not good in the 10th inning. He hits Franmil. I tweeted on the Talking Friars Twitter, hey, please just walk Franmil. Well, I guess that's a walk, kind of. You gave him first base. So you didn't allow him to do damage, because if you pitch to him, which they did, and Lamet hit him, but let's say you pitched to him, gave him a good pitch to hit, that had walk-off written all over it to me. And then Stephen Kwan comes in, and he walks it off on a pitch that was down the middle. It was supposed to be, if you look back, I have the video on the Talking Friars Twitter account. The pitch, I believe Nola had him, was it Nola or it was Alfaro catching, I think. He almost got clocked on the Jose Ramirez swing that the bat left his hand, it slipped out of his hands, and it almost clocked Alfaro. Anyway, that's a separate point. But Alfaro wanted the pitch down, and it ended up down the middle, and Kwan doesn't strike out. He's going to capitalize on that. He's a contact hitter. Good dive, try to dive and make the play by, I think, it was Abrams at second. So good attempt by him, but couldn't get to it. RBI, walk-off. Franmil, of course, scores the game-winning run. Hedges came through with a bloop single today. Naylor came through with a couple RBI hits today. What do you expect? Former Padres doing well against the Padres. Cal Quantrill wasn't as great as I thought he was going to be today in the first game, so the Padres got a little bit of a break there. But Padres lose this game 6-5. There's no excuse. They should have won this game. It's one of the 3 games this year that I can identify that they should have won, and they're going to look back at the end of the year, regardless of where they are. The coaching staff, they remember the games. Arizona, Pittsburgh on Saturday, and today the second game. Those are 3 games, winnable games. And the Dodgers, the Giants, those teams, they don't lose those games most of the time. But that's what happened today. And I guess you have to turn the page. You can't really do anything about it, but it still has to piss you off a little bit, right? If you're a fan of the team, you see that those are 3 games that you should have won, and your team didn't win them. I guess it's good that it's not football, right? You're not stewing over it for a week. You got the Marlins tomorrow night, but it sucks that it's the former Padres, too, that come through as well. You know, Hedges, Naylor, they tie the game, and then Franmil scores the run to win the game. That's not the best. Annabella says, totally agree. I'm fine with 6-2 on the road trip, but the way that ended is what makes me angry. I agree. Had the lead in the 8th both times. Tough losses. In the Saturday Pittsburgh game, Trevor, they had the lead in the 8th. They had the lead in the 10th. Remember, because in the 10th and the top of the 10th, Grisham came through with that hit, and then they couldn't hold it. In the 8th in that game, Michael Chavis hit that 2-run home run off Steven Wilson on a slider that was up and in. Couldn't hold it. And then today had a 3-run lead. They were up 3-0 in the first. They were up 5-2 in the 8th after Abrams had that bases loaded walk, and they couldn't hold it. Tim Hill and Robert Suarez couldn't hold it. I mean, good thing that we won the first game, right? Because good thing that Taylor Rogers was able to come in and secure the 1-run win, the 1-run save in the first game. They barely won that game as well. And so they combined for 10 runs today. That should win you both games. You combine for 10 runs in a doubleheader, you should win. By the way, Cleveland combined for 10 runs. They had 4 runs in the first game, 6 runs in the second. So I guess they could say the same thing as well. But for the Padres' sake, when you have the starting pitching they do, which is better than the Indians, in my opinion, they have the bullpen that should be better than the Indians. You have the best closer in the National League, in my opinion, right now. Brewers fans might have something to say about that. That tweet went viral that I put out when I was just stating facts. about the April Reliever of the Month award, where Hader won it, and Taylor Rogers had a good say. He had a good chance to win that. He had a good case to win it. That tweet went viral, by the way. But what was I saying? Totally forgot what I was saying. But Taylor Rogers, just good thing that we had him there for that save in the first game, right? Because they probably wouldn't have won either game, any game today. Now, I do sound, really pessimistic and really down, right, about this game, about this, the second game, the day in general. But I guess I do have to have the perspective that they went 6-2 on the road trip, and I have to be happy about that because I said I was going to be happy with it before the series started. But as people have pointed out in the chat, the way that they were 6-2, the two losses that they had, the way they lost the two games, that's what stings. They could have been 8-0 on the road trip. And going back home to play Miami and Chicago, sign me up. Still sign me up. You went 6-2 on the road trip. You get to play the Marlins and the Cubs, right? Still sign me up. You get to go back home. Still sign me up. But you'd rather be 8-0 than 6-2. Trevor has a point. 18 innings in a day is rough. Definitely seemed tired in the second game. Well, remember, Trevor, it's not 18 innings. It was 19 because they played 10 innings in the second game. So, you could say that they were tired, but the relievers that pitched that blew the 2 3-run leads in this game, or let's just focus on the 3-run lead with Hill and Suarez. They didn't have that excuse of being tired because they didn't pitch the first game. So I guess you can eliminate that excuse, right? Going back to Tim Hill, I want to focus on him. How worried are you about Tim Hill? Because today he gave up 3 runs, right? He ended up, because the Cleveland Guardians scorekeeper noted the Machado error as not an error, so all 3 of those runs were earned to Tim Hill. He still wasn't good, so I'm not trying to say that he was good and those 3 runs are disguising that he was good. No, he still wasn't good. 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 3 runs, walked 1, didn't strike out anyone. His ERA is now up to 11.12. Suarez's ERA is at 4.91. So the 5 guys probably that you think that Bob Melvin should want to trust, Rogers, Wilson, Suarez, Garcia, Hill, at least going into the year, some of those guys the majority aren't looking great. Suarez didn't look good today. I know he's been good the majority of his appearances, but he didn't look good today. Tim Hill didn't look good today. Steven Wilson hasn't looked good his last couple appearances. That's 3 guys there. So it's Garcia and Rogers right now, and it's rotating. We're always going to be confident in Rogers is what it seems like, and then it's rotating between Wilson, Garcia, and Suarez, right? Rotating between who's that second guy that we trust, right? Who's that second guy they should pitch the 8th inning, So it's a sticky situation. Is it going to be like this the whole year, or is it going to be like this? Is it going to continue like this in Chicago or against Chicago and Miami at Petco? Sure hope not. I don't think it will. The Guardians, I think, are a better offense than the Marlins are. So you hope it doesn't continue, but you can't totally be confident that it won't continue because this was a prolonged stretch. You go back to the Cincinnati series with Lamet, the Pittsburgh series on Saturday, today, right? It was prolonged kind of throughout the road trip where the bullpen wasn't great, So how worried are you about the bullpen? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried would you be? This might be contradictory. I mean, I probably sound like I'm at 11 on a 10 scale of the bullpen, right? But considering, stepping back and realizing that they still went 6-2, and they're still right now, they're 16-9. That's still good. I agree with Dan. I'd go at a 6. That's what Dan says. Anyone else in the chat, if you have any 1 to 10, what's your concern level of this bullpen? Ashley says, another thing, the wins on this road trip weren't dominant. That's what worries me. Yeah. Well, guess what? They weren't dominant because of what? The bullpen. Right? I mean, you look back, we can go through the games. So today they win by 1 run in the first game. They lose by 1 run the second game. Let me see here. Sunday, okay, they win by 4. Okay, they won that game good. But then they lose by 1 on Saturday. They win by 4. So the majority of the Pittsburgh games were good wins. But then Thursday, Cincinnati, they win by 2. They win by 3 in a game that probably shouldn't have been a save situation because Lamet sucked on Wednesday. They won by 3 on Wednesday. On Tuesday, they won by 3. So you can make an argument, Ashley, that some of those games they should have won by more than 3. They should have won both games today, and you can make an argument that they should not have won only by 1 run the first game today. So I agree with that point. Dan says 6, like I mentioned. Love is everything says 3. Tatis being out is killing us. I don't think that's killing us as much as you think. I mean, Kim's producing pretty good at the plate. Do you want a 6'4" player in the lineup? Of course. Do you want the best shortstop in the league at shortstop? Of course. But Tatis being out is not the reason why they lost today. Tatis being out is not the reason why they lost on Saturday, right? You have the Hosmer error. You have the bullpen blowing it, Steven Wilson blowing it then, He's not the reason why they lost 2 games on this road trip when they should have went 8-0. He's not the reason. So I want to make that clear. But Wednesday, 5-4 today, Padres win game 1. Game 2, they lost 6-5 in a game they should have won. What did you guys think? I did want to touch on this. I did a little bit of a breakdown. Middle of the game today, the second game, Hedges got a little pissed off at Jerks and Profar because Profar called time late when Quantrill was already starting his windup. And so I think Hedges was, pissed off and saying that you can't do that. Don't call time. Get back in the box, stuff like that. And I did a breakdown with a little bit of lip reading. It was hard to lip read what they were saying. Profar saying, what the ump was saying, what Hedges were saying, because they all had because Hedges and the ump had masks on, obviously, covering their lips, and Profar, the camera angles didn't really show what Profar said. It was to his back. But I did lip read whatever I could. So that breakdown's available on YouTube if you're interested in that. But what were your thoughts on that situation? I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the chat of Hedges getting pissed off at Profar for calling time. When you think about it, it was the umpire's fault because the umpire was the one that granted Profar time when Quantrill had already started his windup. So Hedges might have been getting mad at the wrong person. Dan says Hedgie is a captain on the field. Terry Francona loves him no matter his batting average. Yeah, which his batting average is 170 right now. So, yeah. Austin Hedges being your captain is kind of embarrassing, but that's just me. I get being the field general, because you're the catcher, and he's a good defensive catcher, but to have your 9-hitter be your 8-hitter today, be your captain on the field, that's not what you want. Anyone have any thoughts on that? On Hedgie and Profar there? I'm glad Hedgie's not on the Padres still. I know Nola grounded into that double play with the bases loaded. When was that? In the 10th inning today in the second game. but he came through in the first game, so you got to realize that. And if Nola didn't come through in the first game, which got them to make it 4-3 in the sixth in that first game, they wouldn't have won the game in 9 innings. So that's you got to put that into perspective. So I can't get too mad at Nola when he already performed in the first game. Like of course you want him to perform in both games, but Nola, he's known for putting the ball in play. He put the ball in play. He put the ball in play in the first game. It fell. In the second game, it ended up being a grounder into a double play. I mean, I can't say that I was totally surprised by Nola grounding into a double play, but you were hoping that he'd be able to lift it, right? Like he lifted it earlier in this road trip on some sac flies. Catching 18 innings will make you cranky, Doe says. Well, Hedges didn't catch 18 innings today. He did not start at catcher the first game. He started the second game. He was scheduled yesterday to catch, but since it was a doubleheader today, that's why he didn't catch both games. All right, series MVP. Who would be your series MVP or day MVP today for the 2 games today? I'll give you mine while I get some people in the chat telling me their series MVP, which is just today. For me, it's probably Hosmer for me. Offensively, game 1 today. What was it? Yeah, game 1, he went 1 for 4, drove in a run. Game 2, he went 1 for 2 and drove in 2 runs. Did they really walk him 3 times? Wow. They walked Hosmer 3 times today in game 2. 2 of them were intentionally, I know that. 3 times, 3 walks. They're scared of Haas. They are scared of Haas. Wow. All right. So combined today, Hosmer went 2 for 6 with 3 RBIs, 3 RBI. And 3 walks. And he's hitting 378 with a 1,030 OPS, which is identical to Manny's OPS. That's a cool little nugget. Dan says Clev is his series MVP. Showed he can get on the bump. That's huge. Pitching, yeah, I mean, Rogers is up there as well just because he was able to save the first game. Clev is up there because he was able to show he can get on the bump. Yeah, the big positive, I said it at the pregame show yesterday before it got rained out. I said it today on the new pregame show that I did. As long as he came out of it healthy, that's what I cared about. That was a win. And then you add that they were able to win that first game, especially considering how important that was because they lost the second game when they should have won it. Yeah, it was big. So, Clev, I respect that choice, Dan. I'm going with Haas because he played both games. And when it's only a 2-game series, 2-game day, really, I'd like you to play both games to get the MVP, but that's just me, I guess. But Clev is an option, yeah. Leading the league in batting average, that's pretty awesome. Yep. I think you're talking about Haas. 378. Yeah, 1,030 OPS. I mean, it's May and he's still hitting well. I mean, I've said multiple times, wait till May, and he's hitting well. I know it's May 4th. May the 4th be with you, by the way. My sister and brother like Star Wars, so I had to get that in there. But they are playing easier opponents, and I don't want to rain on his parade. He's playing well. I'm going to praise him. He's one of the team MVPs so far this year. He's a big reason why they're 16-9. But I want to see how he does near the end of May when you have to face, after you face Miami and Chicago, this rest of the homestand. How is he going to do when they go back on the road and face the Braves for 3 games, the Phillies for 3 games, and then the Giants for 3 games? Oh, and then the Brewers for 3 games. That 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That 12-game stretch after this Miami-Chicago homestand, how is he going to do that? I think that's a big question. So at the end of May, I'll compare his stats from April to May, and we'll definitely do a little bit of a deep dive there on some episode. I'll definitely do that, or I'll make a video on it or something. I'll do something on it. But, yeah, keep watch for that tough road trip that they'll go on with the Phillies, the Brewers, the Braves, the Giants, after the Miami-Chicago homestand coming up starting tomorrow against the Marlins. And then we'll see if he's still, hot. Dan says, scary to imagine if our starters would not have gone as deep so far. What would the bullpen have done? Yeah, they would have not been pretty. Pedro Avila would have pitched. Who did not pitch today? Was he the only one that did not pitch today? Wilson, Chris Matt, Garcia, Rogers. Pull up my bullpen chart real quick on another tab. Because in game 1, Rogers, Garcia, Wilson, Chris Matt pitched. Suarez, Lamet. Garcia pitched both games today? Or am I looking at – that's the first game. Okay. Avila might have been the only guy that didn't pitch today in the bullpen. I remember everyone else pitching. So Avila was the 27th man. So, yeah, if the starters didn't go that well, there you go. Avila would have pitched. Especially with 7 straight games coming up, you don't want to burn the bullpen. You're just going to send Avila down tomorrow anyway, or tonight. They probably already sent him down. Eric, what's up? Yeah, he loves getting on me about my picks, saying I have easy picks on the pregame show, my Padre picks. Today, so game 1, I had Manny. No, I had Crone. I had Cronenworth, and then I had Manny game 2. Manny, Cronenworth game 1 went 0 for 3, so I didn't get that right. And game 2, Manny went 0 for 4. So, yeah, not great. Did not get either game right today. So, yeah, laugh at that one, Eric, I guess. Rare day today. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the bullpen was – hopefully it can turn it around starting tomorrow against an easier opponent. They're not facing a ton of former Padres. But, yeah, playing 19 innings, playing in front of, no one in Cleveland. And did you see – I had that video that I posted on the Twitter account at Talking Friars where a fan yelled F you at Manny. I tweeted it out. I was like, is this me or am I not hearing something right? And the Guardians fans, because there's no one there, you could literally hear anything that a heckler was saying. And so the heckler says, F you, Manny. I'm like, okay, what did he do to you? He's 0 for today. What did he do to – or no, he homered today, but he's 0 in the game. What did he do to you? All right, let's preview this Marlins series. Figured we'd do that. Obviously, I'll have the pregame show before every game like I usually do. I'm going to be back in San Diego next week, so hopefully I'll have some content at Petco Park with fans, talking to fans. I'll try to do that a little bit. Pregame shows inside Petco Park. Maybe I can talk to some players as they're coming off the field. Who knows? We'll see. Let me know if you hit me up, talkingfriars@gmail.com or at Talking Friars on Twitter or Instagram or in the chat, wherever. If you have any ideas of content you want me to put out when I'm at Petco Park, this summer. All right, so let's do a little bit of preview. Tomorrow, Thursday, the series opener, it's going to be Jesus Luzardo on the mound for the Marlins, Nick Martinez for the Padres. The Marlins right now are 12-12, so not a terrible team. They did sign Avisail Garcia, Jorge Soler in the offseason. Josh Chisholm's off to a really good start. He's hitting what is he hitting? Josh Chisholm. He's 24. He's hitting 329. He has a 1,037 OPS. So good start for him so far this year. Nick Martinez on the mound for the Padres. Might be his last start in the rotation because Snell and Clev coming back. Snell coming back. Clev is back. For Friday's game, May 6th, it's going to be Sandy Alcantara for the Marlins against Yu Darvish. Alcantara has a 2.90 ERA so far. Darvish has a 4.44 ERA, 25 punch-outs. He pitched really good against the Dodgers, his last Petco start. And then, who did he face last? It was the Reds, right? Did he face last? These games are falling together right now. Trying to see who he faced last. I mean, I'm doing it like an old person, looking at my notes. I could look at online. Let me see here. Yu Darvish. Game logs. Pittsburgh was his last start. 6 innings, 3 runs. 5 strikeouts, 98 pitches. 62% of those pitches were strikes. So hopefully he can have a better start than that against the Marlins, right? 2 runs, something like that. 6 runs. Sorry. Definitely not 6 runs. Hopefully the Padres score 6 runs. 6 innings, giving up 2 runs. Hopefully he can do something like that. That's Friday's game, May 6th at 6:40. Saturday's game, remember, this is a 4-game set. Saturday's game is at 5:40. Sean Manaea against Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez leads the National League in ERA so far among starters, 30 strikeouts. So that should be a pretty good pitching matchup, Manaea and Lopez. Manaea had that clunker against the Dodgers, but you would think that that's not going to happen against the Miami Marlins. And then Sunday, finish off the series, the first of 2 series on this homestand, Joe Musgrove on the mound against Trevor Rogers. I don't believe Trevor has any relation to Taylor Rogers. I believe it's just Taylor and Tyler with the Giants. Those are the 2 related because Trevor Rogers doesn't look anything like Taylor. So I don't think they're related. They both spell Rodgers the same way, Rogers, not like Aaron Rodgers with the Packers, Rodgers, but Rogers. Trevor Rogers, a 6.14 ERA. He's going to pitch Sunday. They're playing a team that's not as good as them, so you expect taking 3 out of 4. You're playing at home. You got your top 3 starters in your rotation pitching the last 3 games of the series. So this should be a series win for the Padres, as should the Cubs series for me. Eric says, for a suggestion, do a food at Petco Park segment. Would like to know what's good when I go. Maybe. But that also means if I do that, I have to spend the money to buy the food. I'm a big Gaglione Bros guy. That's why it was a perfect sponsorship for me to partner with them for garlic fries and cheesesteaks. I love their garlic fries and cheesesteaks at field level on the third base side. Upper deck, they have a garlic fry stand behind home plate. Mission Gorge, Point Loma are their other 2 locations. That's why I thought it was a good fit. I love their food. A lot of fans love their food. At Petco, there's always a line there. Dan says, go to Gaglione's and tell the manager you heard about them via the show. Good cheesesteaks. Please do that. Yeah. Joe Gaglione and those guys, they're great. Ashley's going to the game on Tuesday. Better get the dub. So you're going, that's the Cubs, right? So you're gonna get to see Seiya Suzuki. He's off to a pretty hot start, right? You can look up his stats real quick. I mean, having Profar at $7 million isn't looking too bad right now. League average OPS plus is 100. Seiya Suzuki's at 157. So he's doing really well. That's 4 home runs, 263 average. He's drove in 15 runs, OPS of 880. His WAR is almost at 1, exactly 20 hits. He's off to a pretty good start. I'll say it if I say so myself. Who's pitching on Tuesday, you ask? Well, if Musgrove's going Sunday, then Clev is, I don't know, right? Yeah, Clev would go Monday, I think. I think he would go Monday. And then that would mean that who pitched the second game? Gore would go Tuesday? I think that's what it would be. I think Ashley would be seeing Gore on Tuesday. So that would be a good one. That would be a good one to go to. I mean, today Gore against the Guardians, I don't think he pitched terribly. I mean, the strikeouts, he had 10 strikeouts against the Reds at last start before this. Then he had 2 strikeouts today. So that's a big fluctuation in strikeouts, but that's not anything I'm worried about. He allowed 1 earned run. I don't care if you strike out 0 guys, Keep the walks down, pitch to contact, ground balls, lazy flyouts. Cool. The only thing that matters is how many runs you give up. Imagine Suzuki next season, Eric says. The way Kim has adapted year 2, Suzuki will be an all-star for sure. But here's the thing. I think Kim had to adjust. I don't know if Suzuki has to adjust as much. Because didn't Kim come from a different league than Suzuki? Like a worse league? He came from Korea, right? Suzuki came from Japan. Japan's a better league than Korea. Poor Ashley, Dan says, prepare for a lot of Cubbies honks. Cheer louder. Ashley says she can cheer loud. Don't worry. Cubs fans are loud. I'll give that to them. But I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be as many of them now that it's not 2016 and it's easy to be a bandwagon. I remember in 2016 when I was still in high school and I was there, and there were all these fans in the brand new Cubs hats, and there was some with stickers on them. It's like, come on, guys, you're not fooling anyone. You're not fooling anyone. Talk about bandwagons. Just hop on the bandwagon, huh? Guess that's what the young society, the young kids do nowadays. Remember, that was when the Padres weren't the Padres, They weren't 16-9 to start off their season. They didn't have Tatis as an MVP candidate, or they didn't have Manny yet, But I'm a loyal fan. The loyal fans are the real fans. Hopefully no fights, though. Just ruins the experience for me, Ashley says. Yeah, I mean, did you see the Dodgers series? That was bad. I mean, right field was like, might as well just put a UFC cage around right field. The right field stands. There was just fights all over the place. All right, I think I'll head out. I think this is good. It is 10:54 in New York right now where I'm at. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching to episode 157 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. For those live in the chat, I appreciate you. For those on replay, I appreciate you. For those on the podcast platforms listening, I appreciate you. Ben Fadden signing off. I am your host. This episode is sponsored by GAGLIONE Bros. Famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries. I'll be with you for the pregame show tomorrow. I'll be with you for the next episode unless I have an interview before then on what would that be, on Sunday. I'll probably have one before that, maybe. But definitely on Sunday after the game, I'll be with you then, live for next episode. Until then, have a good night, everyone. See ya.